Welcome to Cartoon Scary! Boo!
At exactly midnight, the campus was completely dark, save for one strict prohibition. The administration enforced a single, unbending rule for all students: stay away from the third-floor library, day or night. There were no official warning signs or safety notices posted. Instead, the administration relied on a whisper network. Every year, senior students passed down a deep, inherited terror to the incoming freshmen, keeping the corridor entirely isolated through the sheer force of rumor. But one student, Abhay, didn't react to the warnings. He grew up sitting beside his grandfather, a village Tantrik, watching him perform exorcisms. From a young age, Abhay learned that shadows have causes, and that raw panic is useless without understanding the mechanics behind it. When an institution demands blind compliance without offering a logical explanation, it creates an intellectual vacuum. By refusing to clarify what was behind the door, the college practically guaranteed that someone like Abhay would eventually force it open to find out. Abhay and 3 classmates took the direct route, walking into the principal's office to request access and an explanation. The administration's response was immediate and defensive: drop the subject entirely or face severe disciplinary action. To force them to back down, the principal revealed the origin of the lockdown. 12 years earlier, a junior librarian named Shekhar was working a night shift. The next morning, he was found paralyzed on the floor, eyes wide open, unable to speak. Before quitting weeks later, Shekhar claimed an unseen presence watched him work. The principal used Shekhar's trauma to validate the campus legend. However, providing a name and a timeline gave Abhay the specific lead he needed to justify a full investigation. Days later, the campus slept as a black car pulled up to the rear gate. Abhay's team, now joined by Dr. Siddharth, picked the lock. They were abandoning campus folklore and replacing it with empirical observation. Dr. Siddharth set up a perimeter of diagnostic equipment to establish a measurable baseline. They deployed thermal sensors for temperature, digital recorders for audio, and EMF meters for electromagnetic fields. This graph tracks the atmospheric readings from their first night inside. After a completely flat baseline, the meters capture massive spikes in electromagnetic activity, followed immediately by the library's fluorescent tubes flickering and failing entirely. Night 2 escalates from environmental interference to physical manipulation. Books begin sliding off shelves. Look at the secondary axis on this chart. Exactly as physical activity starts, the voltage in the team's recording equipment drops from 20% to 0 in a matter of seconds. To generate physical force, a localized entity requires immense power. It pulls that power directly from the environment around it, draining camera batteries and phones in a mechanical process known as energy siphoning. The instruments confirm a conscious interaction. The entity ignores the empty space in the library and focuses its energy specifically on the observers and their electronic equipment. On night 3, the environment turned overtly hostile. Chairs flipped and heavy texts launched horizontally off the shelves, forcing Dr. Siddharth and the students to abandon their gear and flee the building. Following the team's use of high-voltage sensors and thermal probing, the disturbances stopped staying within the library walls. The entity moved with the team as they fled, following the energy trail back into the campus at large. Looking at this map of the college campus, we can track the fallout. The disturbances bleed outward. Students report weeping noises in the courtyards, and shadow figures begin appearing in the windows of the dormitory halls. With panic spreading through the student body, the administration faced an internal crisis. Their strategy of total denial collapsed under a flood of daily complaints, forcing them to summon Dr. Siddharth back to the campus. Measuring the symptoms of a haunting with sensors does nothing to cure it. Attempting to quantify supernatural trauma without addressing the human root cause only expanded the area of the disturbances. Dr. Siddharth realized science had reached its limit. He arrived the next morning with Satyadev Baba, a practitioner who understood that stopping the phenomena required active spiritual communication, not passive data collection. Baba bypassed the sensors entirely. Upon reaching the library door, he drew a thick line of salt across the threshold and began chanting Sanskrit mantras, instantly stabilizing the dropping temperature and re-establishing control over the hostile room. With the room bound, the digital recorder finally captured a sequence of clear responses. A voice identifies itself as a librarian from 20 years ago, pleading that her death was not her fault and that she was tied to the floor. Through the ritual, Baba reveals the details the recorder missed. The librarian had reported a professor's misconduct and was murdered in this room to silence her. The college administration, fearing a scandal, framed the death as a suicide, trapping her spirit within the institution's official lie. At 2:30 in the morning, Baba constructed a Havan Kund, a traditional ritual fire pit, directly in the center of the library floor. There, he performed the final rites and cremation rituals the victim was deliberately denied 2 decades prior. The results of the ritual were immediate and quantifiable. The EMF meters flatlined. The thermal sensors returned to room temperature. The disturbances across the college dormitories ceased entirely. The library was not housing a monster. It was hiding a crime. By opening the door, Abhay uncovered the truth that the administration's silence had spent 20 years trying to bury. The administration maintained a fragile peace through silence, while Abhay and his team risked everything to address the underlying injustice. It leaves a question for anyone standing before a locked door. When a system demands you look away, do you obey, or do you find the courage to find out why?